Hey up and welcome to Corey's Corner. Today I'm going to be doing the storytime video I promised a while ago where I'm going to talk about how I tried to join the army, basically, and how I spent a bit of time sort of in the army, kind of. If you very loosely define what the army is, then I was technically in it for a little bit. This is a video that I've wanted to make for like a long time, but I've never really known like how to approach it. But I think I just need to do it. Yeah, I've just never made it, so here we go. Well, first of all, before I even talk about the army, I need to give a bit of context to exactly what I'm talking about. So in the country like I was born, which is obviously England, there's like the army, and then there's this thing called the army cadets, which is like the army for kids, but it's like a part of the actual army organization, right? So it's not just like the scouts or something like that. Like it's actually like the people. So like when I was in the cadets, and when I was in the cadets, the people who are like in charge of you are like adults who have like who are like actual like army officers. Like we got visited by this like general at one point, I guess, and he'd come back from the Falkland Islands, which are like, I like these islands, and there was like some war there, and this guy was like in charge of them apparently, and he came to visit us, and he was like technically our like commanding officer or something, and we all had to like salute. He tried talking to me actually. I was like looking at this poster, looking at all the like the ranks and stuff, and I was like, and he just came up to me and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm just," not in like a harsh way, but he was just like, "Oh, what's going on?" And I was like, I had to call him sir, and I was like, "I'm just looking at how like where I am, sir," or whatever, because I wanted to be like high up or whatever. And he was like, "Oh, very good, you'll be there in no time," and stuff. And obviously I wasn't, because I fucking quit. I got like not kicked out, but yeah, it didn't end well. And yeah, and the reason I was thinking about joining the army is because a lot of people in my family have been in the army. Like both my great grandfather and my great grandfather were in the World Wars, and they both died in the World Wars. One of them died in like Flanders, and the other one in World War II. He fought in North Africa, and that's where he died. My uncle, it was like kind of in the army. He tried to join the navy, but the thing is, my uncle's like kind of a loser, and he's also colorblind as well. So they don't let you in, basically, the navy. I mean, like I think what he wanted to do is like be the one guy who like looks at the flags and stuff. And if you know like the navy, they have all these like different like square ensigns and stuff, and you have to see the colors of it. So obviously they're not going to let him in. And he was really like depressed. He didn't get in, and he started like drinking heavily, and he's also like schizophrenic and stuff. And he joined the police force. He ended up joining the police, and he went to he worked in this prison for a while. Actually, he was like a prison guard, and he got fired because he was bringing in like porn magazines to the prisoners in exchange for I don't even know what. I think he just brought them in for no reason because he was fucking nuts, right? Yeah. So there's some history of military service in my family. The guy who I don't know for a fact is my dad, but I think might possibly be my dad. I know my mum was with him for a while before I was born. He was in the army. He served in like Afghanistan, and and like Iraq and stuff in the Gulf War. He served a bit there, quite a bit, and he joined the police as well after he was in the army. So there is a lot of army service in my family. And the reason I think this guy might be my dad is because like he looks a lot like me. He has a son with another woman, and that kid looks exactly like me. And I don't know, I think he looks a lot like me, and we just, I don't know. I've only seen him like a few times in my life. My mum doesn't like having me around him, so who knows? Or maybe he's just a random guy who my mum's ex-husband. Who knows? But either way, it doesn't really matter. But either way, my point is, I don't know, why am I even still talking about this? You get my point. You get what I'm trying to say. So I thought like maybe I could join the army, and that is like something that I think would suit me very well, because like just taking orders and stuff and just doing things like that people tell you to do. And like obviously there's like a million good reasons not to join the army, and like looking back, I'm definitely glad I didn't end up doing that. But I don't know, like just not having to think about shit and just do whatever you're taught. And like I'm very good at like just doing shit, and not like I could have someone screaming in my face and ordering me around and doing all these exercises and standing to salute and all these schedules and stuff. I could handle that. I could handle that. I guess it's the actual fighting that's the fucking problem, I guess. But that's the whole reason it exists. And that's another thing I want to say, like a point in this video that I'm going to make, is that people in the army, like it attracts a certain kind of person, and especially the army cadets as well. Because at the end of the day, even though the army, I'm sure the army does a lot of good, at the end of the day, the job of the army is to kill people, basically. So it's going to attract a certain kind of person. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the army who are like perfectly fine people, but I can tell you, like, there's a lot of, yeah. So one thing about me that I talk about quite a bit is I'm blind in one of my eyes. I can't see anything out of it at all. I was just born like that, and it's kind of lazy, and it makes me look. I mean, it's a lazy eye. It's like it's over for you. You could be Chad and have a lazy eye. It's one of those things you can't. It's like a recessed chin. It's like a third nipple. There's no coming back from it. A lazy eye is over for you. But also it means I can't join the army because I'm blind in one eye. You need 20/20 vision. You need to pass this optical exam, right? And I can't do a bunch of other shit. Like I can't be a pilot. I can't be a surgeon. I mean, let's face it, I probably wasn't going to be a surgeon anyway, was I? But I could have joined the army, right? One way that a lot of people end up joining the army is they join the cadets, and I thought maybe like they wouldn't check. I don't know, right? So I joined. That's why I joined the cadets. So before I was in the cadets, I've talked about this in other story times, but I was in the scouts. I was in the Cubs. I was in the scouts. I was in this kind of organization, and I had a friend with me in the scouts. Who he is the kid. It's a video I made a long time ago, almost a year ago at this point, where I will link it in the corner now, but it's the one where I went to his house and he was like watching gay porn and he was like jerking off in front of me. He's that kid, and if you haven't seen that video, it's exactly what it sounds like. And he was in the scouts with me, and this is obviously like years after that story had happened, but we were like decent friends and we were in the scouts and stuff. Like you think that would put a strain on our relationship, but I don't know. And we had this guy who was like one of the leaders in the scout group. He was this like big, pretty, like, no offense, but pretty fat guy, completely bald. He was like a bald cell, and a lot of people in the army are bald as well. Like they shave their heads off, and not they shave their heads off, but they shave their hair off their heads. They look like a bunch of like fingers all standing next to each other in a line. But we had this army guy who was like one of our leaders in the scouts, and we were getting to that age where we were going to have to leave the scouts. They let us stay because it was a pretty small like scout troop, so they let us stay for like a year longer than we were meant to. But it got to a point where we were like getting too old to stay, like, and they're meant to be like you can join like there's this thing called like there's one above scouts that you can join, but a lot of people also join the army cadets, and this army guy was like, he went to us and he said like, hey, like, he basically like kind of groomed us basically into joining the army pretty much. And this guy was like, he was super like military focused. Like he was talking about where he'd served, and he was showing like us his medals and stuff. And he was like, yeah, we were in like, he was like in some like covert operation against like Saddam Hussein or some shit, and they get the Prince of Saudi Arabia gave them special medals and stuff and this kind of crap. And you know, I don't think this guy was lying because he was showing us this shit, and like he had been in the army. And he was talking about like when he'd served, or he hadn't served, but he had like a friend in Northern Ireland, and he was in this like tower, and then the tower got shot by a rocket by like the IRA, I guess. And I said to him like, I asked him like, hey, were you in Northern Ireland? And he said this thing, and I think it's very telling. It reveals the kind of attitude that people have about this kind of thing. He said to me, no, and the answer, it could just be no, but he said to me, no, I didn't have the honour to serve in Northern Ireland. And I just think that's very telling of the attitude these people have about that kind of thing. It's like these people, and I think it's complete bullshit. You know, I didn't have the honor. It's like you're putting your life on the line for your country, and people think it's this romantic thing, and it's just not. You know, I don't have to go to war to see it firsthand to tell you. It's nothing nice about it. There's nothing sweet and honourable about dying for your country, and you know, you're not protecting people's freedom. It's like no one's trying to bother you. You know, the UK, the USA, no one's trying to fucking invade these countries, and these armies are going off to all corners of the world to invade these places and harass local people and this kind of stuff, and it's wrong, you know, and they're just, you know, I mean, we all know like the US Army kills a lot of innocent people and like drone strikes stuff, like we all know in like Israel and stuff, they're killing innocent, like we know this isn't anything new, but I don't know, I just thought it was very, it just explains the context of what this guy's talking about. But we did end up joining the army cadets, and we showed up, and on the first day we went, it's like in this hut, right, me and my friend went there. And I was pretty nervous. My knee was shaking. I remember I was sitting in the back of his mum's car, like she dropped us off, and my knee was like bobbing up and down a lot. Well, that's something I used to do like a lot. I got like really nervous about things. And we kind of went into this little hut place. It's like a one-story like concrete floors. Like it's like a sports hall basically, and it's got like a kitchen and like an office and stuff, and a toilet area and like a storage room, and that's basically all they had. And we went in, and there were a bunch of people in there. Like, there were a bunch of these like kids, and I mean, I don't know what age the army cadets technically like have, but they had like up to like 18, 19-year-olds down to like 12-year-olds basically. It was like joining like Joseph Kony's little army, you know, that, remember that guy? We went in, and my mum was there as well, and as we went in, this one girl who was like maybe a year older than me, she said to my mum, Mrs., because, you know, she said my mum's name. She was like, oh, hey, it's Miss whoever. Like my second name, obviously I'm not going to say my name, but she like recognized my mum, and I was like, and my mum like recognized her, and I was like, what is this? And so my mum's a teacher, and it turns out my mum taught this girl. Like, this girl went to my mum's school, and they were like, oh, this is your son and stuff, and then everyone came over to me, and like from day one I was being like made fun of, I guess. Not even made fun, but like it's hard to explain, because, you know, when you say it out loud, it doesn't seem like it would really matter, but everyone, like, I was just like, nothing I said was taken seriously, just right off the bat. Like, my looks aren't helping me anyway. That's the last thing I need. You know what I mean? But anyway, we got brought into this guy's office. This is like an adult. This was like a 40-something-year-old man who was in charge of these kids. This is like Joseph Kony. We went into his office, and he was like asking why we wanted to join and stuff, and and all this crap. And we had to like stand behind his desk like they do with their like arms behind their backs and their legs apart and stuff. And then we got brought into this like hall, and they basically just let us join the army like right there and then. We didn't even need to do anything really. Yeah, so I'm gonna that's how we joined. I'm gonna talk about some other brutal things that happened when I was in there, because there were some things that happened that were so brutal they ended up making me like leave the army, right? And I keep saying like leave the army as if I was in the army. I'm not trying to say like I was a soldier or some shit, because obviously I wasn't, but I'm just saying like that made me leave the cadets. Maybe I should say the cadets, right? But anyway, the army sounds better anyway for like a video title or something. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit misleading, but whatever. In the cadets, just like the real army, you have like little sections and platoons and stuff, and you have like other kids who are in charge of you. So me and my friend got put into the same like squad, or I don't even know what they're called, but we got put into the same section basically. And there was this girl in charge of us, which, I mean, it's whatever, you know. But she had like this disease where all her hair fell out. I think it's called alopecia. So she had like a really like patchy head. She had like only little bits of hair on her head and stuff. And to be honest, joining the army probably isn't a bad shout if you got that, because being like bald as a woman, she was basically. If I was her, she had like little like thimbles of hair left on her head. If I was her, I'd just go bald, to be honest, or get a wig, or I don't know, just, you know, but not halfway, you know, not halfway. She looked like my pinky finger, to be honest, because she had a very like pointy head as well, and usually that would have been covered up. I'm telling you, hair, people were like, why are you growing your hair out? You know, it covers up features. You know, hair is like the key to looks maxing. So if you lose it, it's tough, man. But, you know, the thing is as well, is like women get bald treatment or whatever it's called, like on the NHS, like they get that for free. You know, men, you know, if you go bald as a man, no one gives a fuck. If you're a woman, you go bald, yeah, it gets paid for, you know, by people's tax money. Just something to think about. But anyway, she was in charge of us, and my friend was a bit of a feckless wanker, to be honest with you. He always like, he had like 10 girlfriends in the whole time I knew him. So the whole time when we were in like middle school and high school, he had like 10, 15 girlfriends, and that's not an exaggeration. He would have like a relationship a week, and then it would end the next week and start again, and all this bullshit, right? Anyway, to cut a long story short, he started dating this girl, right, which is not allowed in the army, right? Like, you're not allowed to do that. They told us like you're not allowed to date each other. Not that I'm going to date any of these women anyway, am I? But he started dating her, and like I actually remember when it happened, because it was in the summer holidays from school, but they still had these army meetings, and I wanted to go, but my mum had basically booked this like holiday to Tenerife. Not to sound ungrateful or anything, but what can I do? Be twiddling my thumbs in some hotel room with my mum in some Spanish island somewhere, or I could be training with the army. I'd rather be with the army, to be honest. No offense to my mum. And basically I had to just go. And when I came back the next week I was there, they were like hanging out a lot, and I thought, you two are getting. And he told me, because obviously like they had agreed, oh, we're not going to tell anyone because like it's against the rules. But he, I guess, was so proud of it. He like showed off to me. He's like, hey, I got this, you know, girlfriend, whatever. And the thing is, he would do all kinds of shit in our little squad that you should get in trouble for, and she would never ever like punish him, but she would always like be really harsh on me. and she'd like make me do like push-ups and stuff. She, you know, anything I said, she's like, drop down, give me 10 push-ups right now. And I'm a fat fuck. I can't do push-ups, you know. I'm not fit enough to do that. I do like 3 or 4 and I start wheezing, right? So that put me off straight away. And I also was a bit disappointed because like I was expecting like, we're gonna get a uniform, we're gonna get guns, we're gonna go and train and stuff. And we were there for like months, and our uniforms never came because they were like underfunded, obviously. Like, I don't know, people think like World War III is gonna happen and the UK is gonna like get involved, man. We don't have any fucking money, man. They can't afford to get uniforms to some kids, man. Even my school could do that. Even my high school got us uniforms. But anyway, I never touched a gun the whole time I was there. And it was just very disappointing. Like, they were just teaching us stuff like how to set up like a sleeping bag. It's like, I know how to do that, you know, and all this crap. And we kept playing this stupid game where basically they take these tables. If anyone's been in the Scouts, at least in the UK, they'll know probably what I'm talking about. But they divide the room into like sections of 4, and everyone has to like lie down, and you have to throw like a ball over the tables and like try and hit each other, and you can't see where it's coming because you're laying down. I'm sure the game has a name, but it was this like terrible stupid game, and that's all we ever did, dude. And then we would do that. What we would do is like, we'd sit down to learn some information, and they would just show us like NATO symbols, like, oh, this is the symbol for infantry, this is for tanks. Or they'd be like talking to us about cover. They're like, this is hard cover, this is a building, you want to get in here or whatever if you're under fire or some shit like that. And then they do that for like 5 minutes. Then we take a snack break, and this thing called the NAFI would open, and this is like this shop where, and this isn't free. Like, you have to bring money for this, by the way. They don't feed you. You have to go and pay to buy some food. And I always bought the same thing. I always bought a Capri Sun and a double decker, which is like this chocolate bar. I always bought the same thing every week, and it cost me like £2. That's how you know this is a long time ago. Try getting a double decker and a Capri Sun for £2 today. You can't do it. It's like more like £5 probably. But anyway, and there was this girl that worked in the NAFI, and she was like she was one of us. Obviously, she was like our age, but she wasn't. She was just like in charge of the NAFI. I don't know how you get to be in charge of that, but ever since I started, like when I joined, she was just always there, and I thought she was pretty good looking, and I'd go up there every time and be like, hey, you know, can I get a double decker and a Capri Sun? And I started trying to do this thing where I went up there and I'd be like, hey, I'll just have the usual, and every time I did it, she'd be like, the what? And I'd have to like explain and look like an idiot. That's what you get, I guess. And meanwhile, in the space of like a week, my friend manages to start dating the girl who's like in charge of all of us. Meanwhile, I can't even. Whatever. What was even the point of trying, man? And then, but yeah, then we'd sit around for ages eating these snacks, and they'd be way too. And people they would go on way too long. Like, we'd eat these snacks, and then they'd give us like half an hour to do that, and it's like, I don't need that long. But then people would start socializing with each other, and that's really where things started to break down for me. When it relies on socialization or socializing, I guess, that's where it's over for me. And then after that, we would play like some game, like that ball game I mentioned, or like the first day we were there, we went out to play like football, and I actually scored a goal. Like, the ball came like flying over to me, and I like jumped in the air and like kicked it, and it actually went in the goal. And I remember someone like shouted, "Oh damn, the new kid's got skills!" And that was like the peak of my army career, and it was all downhill from there, from the first day. Yeah, that reminds me of the story, a bit of a tangent, but I remember I went on holiday, to some like one of these like kind of all-inclusive package holidays that you used to get for cheap before the financial crash and stuff. I went on holiday to this place with my mum, and they had like a football camp she signed me up for all week. Like, it was like, because I was there for a week, and every day for like an hour they'd go to this football camp, and it was all these other kids who were way more like, I don't want to say masculine because we were like 10-year-old kids, but they're more into football than I am. And I don't socialize with people, obviously. I don't really like football or soccer. Sorry if you're American, it's soccer. And I just kept to myself like the whole time. I just stood at like the gate, like waiting for my mum to come pick me up, not talking to anyone. And then on the last day, they had this like not training, but this like test to see how well you would you do. And after that, they had like an actual football game between the kids, and they had like 2 academies like running simultaneously, I think. And at the end, the 2 ones would like basically like play against each other. And the test that they did was, they had this goal, and they had this like massive like plywood sheet in front of it, and with like holes cut into it, and each hole was like a different size, and they were worth different points, and it's like who can score the most points basically, and each hole is like a different size, but there's one hole which is the highest amount of points, which is exactly the size of the football, so you have to get it perfectly, and it's like right bang in the middle of the goal. And I was at the back of the line because I didn't want to do this. I knew I'm just gonna hit. Most kids didn't get it in because it's pretty hard. Like if you think about it, like hitting a soccer ball into like a, you know, like getting into a goal might not be hard, but being very precise is pretty difficult. So what I did, I know people aren't going to believe this story, but I don't care. It happened. I know it happened, so it's hardly that impressive anyway, to be honest. But I was at the back of the line. I shut my eyes and just kicked the ball because I was like, I'm not gonna get it in. Just get it over and done with. And I kicked it, and I kept my eyes shut, and I started walking towards the gate with my eyes closed because I was a weird kid. I don't know. But I kicked it, and I didn't hit. I was expecting to hear like a thud sound as the ball hit the wood, but instead I didn't hear that. But I did hear like a bunch of people cheering, and they were like, "Yes, Corey, yes!" And a bunch of people like ran up to me, and these kids like lifted me up on their like not on their shoulders, but they like they all did this thing where they all gathered around me and like picked me up and stuff, and they were because apparently like I got it in the thing, and like I don't know if I was like the first person ever to do that, but like I was the only one there. No one else had got it in there. And this guy, like one of the coach who was like in charge, was like, "Oh, well done" and stuff. He wrote me like a little certificate and stuff, and a signed like football shirt that they gave me. And I mean, by the coach, I mean it's hardly like a signed shirt from like I don't know who's in football. Wayne Rooney, is he still playing? I don't know. I haven't followed soccer for like 10 years I don't care. And it kind of reminded me of that story because like I don't know, I guess I'm just very lucky with I don't know because I suck at football as well. Like obviously, like I have no depth perception because of my eye. I can't pour stuff into glasses, you know. Like I try and pour water or pour like milk because I drink milk. Judge me if you want. I drink milk. Who cares? It's delicious. And I can't pour it in the glass because I have absolutely no depth perception whatsoever because of my eye. You need both eyes to have depth perception, I think. But I guess I just got lucky. Anyway, the army. What was I talking about? Anyway, yeah. So what I did was I was pretty disappointed in the army, like I said, because I was like expecting it to be a lot more interesting, but we're just playing games basically. So I said to my friend who I joined with, I said to him, "Oh, this is like the B-Tech Scouts," and if you don't know what that means, basically, I was just calling it like a rubbish version of the Scouts. If you're not from England, you might not know what that means, but it's basically just slang. It means a rubbish version of something. So I said, this is like a terrible version of it's just the Scouts basically. It's just a knockoff version of the Scouts. And he found it funny enough, I guess, but I was serious. Like I wasn't joking around. Like I was pretty annoyed. Like I was thinking about leaving, to be honest. Anyway, that was like just before I went on holiday, like I mentioned with my mum. We went to Tenerife. Tenerife, beautiful island, by the way. If you haven't been, it's an amazing place. Maybe I'll go actually because I have a bit of money saved up. Maybe I can go like by myself, do like a vlog or something. I don't know. That's a stupid idea. I can't believe I just said that. When I came back, not only did I find out that my friend was now dating this like officer, he had also gone and told everyone for like brownie points, social brownie points, and I could just imagine how because I can't trust this fucking guy with anything, right? I mean, we don't really talk anymore, but shocking, I know, but he had gone and told everyone all this information, like what I basically called the army like a terrible version of the Scouts, and everyone was super pissed when I came back. Everyone was like giving me like death stares and stuff, like shooting daggers at me, and I was like what happened? And he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, I told them." And I was like, "Why the fuck did you tell them?" This guy can't even I don't think he did it on purpose, because the thing is, he told people, if you remember like that story I said, this guy like watched gay porn in front of me and like was jerking off. He told that story to a girl to like impress her, like jester maxing. Like this guy, he was probably jester maxing at my expense. That's probably how he got this officer to start fucking dating him. Probably, I just realized that now. That's probably what happened, man. That's crazy. Yeah, and because I missed a bunch of these army sessions, I didn't learn like some of the important things like marching. Like I didn't learn marching at the same time as everyone else. And then we all got marched over to this parade square because they have behind the hut they have this like parade square, which is actually just like it was just the like playground of a school that was like next to the hut, but they just like used it because we met in like the evenings as well, so it's like there's no one there. And they'd have us march, and I had no idea how to march, you know, no one had taught me, and I got put at the front next to this kid, and we were like marching, and he like whispered to me like in a hushed like angry voice, he was like, "Can you march in time?" Like, march in time. What the hell does that mean? I don't know what he's talking about. And I told him, I don't know, no one's told me how to fucking do this. And basically, you know, it's the story of my life. I just get made to feel like an idiot. No one tells me this shit. No one tells me what the fuck to do. I try and do it, and of course I fail completely, and then people make me feel like an idiot for it. And this is what I mean, like, especially in the army cadets, like, all of the kids are just super aggressive, super rude. Like, when I went to Scotland on that like trip, that like drug rehab place basically for like young offenders, there was this kid who was in the army cadets who was like, who I met, and he was in my room. He actually shared a bunk with me, and he was an absolute spasmoid. I just can't stand these people. It's just a certain kind of person, you know. It really is. I can't really put it into words, but it's just the kind of person who they're just very difficult to get along with, and I'm a very easy person to get along with, to be honest. And you know, these people, they're just looking for conflict, you know. I mean, that's probably why they joined the army, you know. They're just looking to get into a fight with someone and to like disagree and argue over the most like minute, insignificant things, you know. Anyway, yeah, because I didn't get taught how to march, me and there's like some other kids who didn't know got pulled aside, and they taught us. And they had this like, I think it was actually the girl who my friend was dating, this officer who's in charge of us, like pulled us to the side and was like, okay, we're going to teach you how to like march, how to like stand to attention and stuff. So that we got split up into pairs, and I got paired with this kid. This kid must have been 12. He was tiny. He was such a short kid, and he had a really like squeaky voice. And I got partnered with this kid to like do this thing. And what we had to do is we had to stand to attention and then like inspect each other. So like he'd stand to attention, and I'd be like, oh, you need to stand like this and whatever. And then like we do the same. And the thing is that like, how long does that take? Standing to attention is when you like put your arms by your sides and your legs together. That's it. Like it takes like 2-3 minutes at most for both of us to do that, right? But they left us for like 10 minutes to do it, and we kept just doing it like back and forth. And the thing is, like, you just do, if they tell you to do something, you just do it, right? You don't question it. You don't you know, you don't, I don't know, like, you don't do what this kid decided to do. This kid stopped doing it, and he started like just talking to me, like making small talk. And really, like, I want to tell this kid, like, when, you know, just stop talking, like, you're going to get us in trouble. But he's like, oh, so how did you join the kid? Why did you decide to join and stuff like that? And I was just like, come on, you know. But I told him, because I mean, he's a little kid, you know. And this girl came back over, this officer, and she was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And then I was just going to say, oh, no, we're just doing the thing. And I don't know, like, I was going to say something. But this kid interrupted me, and he was like, oh, we were just talking about, like, why we decided to join the cadets. It's like, you idiot, right? They shouldn't let kids in the army, you know. They shouldn't let kids in the army. And we got in trouble. I got in trouble because of this kid, and I had to do like push-ups and stuff on the like my hands on, you know, the asphalt, like the rocky ground, and my hands were like cut up because of it, because this fucking idiot. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to tell that story because that annoyed me at the time. I remember even like at the time thinking, this fucking idiot got me in trouble, you know. I remember one time, this isn't really like related to anything. I don't know how to fit this into the video, but this was just kind of funny. What we'd have to do every day before we went home is like clean up the hut, so they'd have to sweep and you know, get rid of all the kind of dust and stuff. And it's hardly like a clean place. It's a hut in like basically the middle of some like trees and like a field and stuff. It's not exactly, you know, it's not exactly the Ritz. But we'd have to clean up before we left. And I get it, it's like to build discipline and stuff. Like, I understand that. But I remember, this is just kind of a funny bit, but I was like dusting, I got this little like flannel basically, and I was just dusting things, and I was dusting this portrait of the Queen, because they had, I mean, obviously this was when the Queen was still alive, and there was like a picture frame of her like above the door, and everyone would have to like salute it and stuff every day. It's a cult, dude. I'm telling you, the army is a cult. And I was like sweeping it or like dusting the top of it, and as I did it, like the frame knocked and it almost fell off, and man, that would have been the end of me, man. It was just kind of funny. They gave me the nickname Will as well, which I didn't appreciate, because if you've seen the In-Betweeners, they said I looked and talked like Will, which stupid. I hate the In-Betweeners. It's a terrible fucking show. It pisses me off. I don't know. I know it's a popular show, but I don't like it. Right? It's like normie humour, to be honest. It's just, yeah, whatever. It's like people like The Office and like Marvel and crap like that. But anyway. But anyway, they called me Will. They didn't call me Corey. They called me Will, and they called my friend. I'm not going to say his real name, but they called him Jay, because if you've seen the In-Betweeners, Jay is like a ridiculous liar, and he always lies about all the sexual experiences he's had. And my friend also looked quite a bit like him, and I guess I look like Will. I'm white, for the record. I'm not. I said that so angrily, but you know, like I'm not. You know, but I used to wear glasses back then, and I guess I am pretty posh, to be honest. I do have quite a posh accent. It's not my fault. I was just born I'm not posh. I was just born in a posh part of the country, right? Anyway, whatever. And that ended up making me leave, basically, because no one liked me after that. I talked to people. They just wouldn't say anything to me. I remember I made I got to be careful how I say it. I made an ER joke, if you know what I'm talking about, because this is like when I was starting to get into the black pill at this time. This is like 2018, 2019, I guess. Like I remember like they had like the guns, and there was this like kid who was really quiet and he always sat by himself, and me and my friend, like, because at least I had my friend, right? Like if I hadn't had my friend, like, that's basically why I left, because my friend stopped being my friend. He started talking to other people and this girl, obviously, and basically I was left by myself. And I'm not just going to show up to sit in some dank, dingy hall for, you know, an hour every week, just fiddling around with my thumbs and playing like football, right? So not if I don't have a friend with me anyway, you know. But this one kid, he was like, I don't know, he was like 14, 13. He was like pretty small. He was younger than everyone else, and he always sat by himself. And me and my friend went up to him one day, and he was like, just like brooding, basically on his own. He looked pretty miserable. And I think like they were talking about having guns, and I said to this kid like, "Hey, have you heard of ER?" I don't think I can say the name, but you know what I'm talking about. And it was just a joke, man. But fucking hell. Yeah, but anyway, I ended up leaving because of that. You know, I ended up leaving. And like lockdown started anyway, so I probably was going to leave anyway, but that ended up like just pushing me out, which kind of sucked. And you know, over the years, like you know, I saw like my friend, like he showed me like on his phone, because I went to school with this kid, you know, because I left like a few months before lockdown, so between that and when lockdown started, like he'd show me, they'd go on exercises, and his uniform arrived like as soon as I left, and he'd show me like they'd go out on like field exercises, and they'd like dig like trenches and holes and stuff, and they'd go in them, and he'd be wearing his uniform, and he got like a beret and stuff, and he'd wear like camouflage like on his face. He did like blackface basically to camouflage, and he'd go out and they'd shoot guns and stuff, and I don't know, and not only all that, but he did this with this girl he was dating. And granted, like she was kind of an arsehole. She had like she was a bit lippy, and she had like no hair. But you know, to have a bunch of your friends and your girlfriend and do all this fun, cool stuff with them. Meanwhile, I just got made fun of basically and had to drop out. And then lockdown, I was just at home. Like it's brutal. It really is brutal. You know, I think I dodged a bullet in the long run by like not staying, because I don't want to, you know, I don't know, when they send them off to Iran or Ukraine or some bullshit, I don't want to be there with them. I don't want to die there. But yeah, I don't know. There you go.